This is the first part for lesson 10.2, volume of prisms and cylinders. So the first part of this, it should be review. You're going to be finding the volume of right cylinders or prisms. And so just a couple of reminders. When you have a prism like what we see here in number 1, a prism has two bases. And for a prism to be a prism, it has to have these two bases that are congruent and parallel to each other. So I know that this is a triangular prism because the bases are triangles, because those are the two sides that are parallel. If I was looking at any of the other shapes, like if I look at this rectangle that's maybe on the floor there, it doesn't have a parallel base that's on the top. So when you're finding the volume of a right prism such as this, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to find the area of the base. And so when we do that, we're going to call it a capital B. And so when we have the formula for volume, it's the area of the base, whatever it is. If it's a triangle base, then you're going to use the area of a triangle. So like this base right here, if I look at this one, or this one, same thing, those are right triangles. And so it might help sometimes to like just redraw it over here. So this is my right angle. And I know that this is 8, and I know that this is 6. And so the area of that triangle is 1/2 and then base times height. So that's 1/2 of 48, so 24. So the base of my prism, this triangle region right there, that's going to be 24. And then for the volume, I look at how high do I stack it. So I'm going to stack it 11 centimeters. So I'm going to take 24 times 11. And when I multiply that together, that's how I'm going to get my volume. So my volume for that is going to be 264. Because we're talking about centimeters, it's going to be centimeters cubed. So cubic centimeters is 3-dimensional, and so when you're taking up volume, you're doing 3 dimensions, not 2 like with area, but you're doing 3. So that's why it's centimeters cubed. It is not, remember we've talked about this at some point before, but remember it's not 264 cube centimeters, because 264 cube is a really big number. So the cube goes on the centimeters. Okay, number 2, this is a right rectangular prism, and it's rectangular because the bases are rectangles. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the area of the rectangle, the base, and so that's going to be 11 by 7, so that's 77, and so that's my capital B. And then how high do I stack it? I'm going to stack it 9. So I'm going to say 77 times 9, and that's going to give me 693, and that's going to be in yards cubed for my volume. Okay, the next one is going to be a right cylinder, and a cylinder is basically a circular prism, and so the base of a cylinder is a circle, and so the area of a circle, remember, is pi r squared, and so to find the area of that circle, I'm going to say pi, and then r is 10, so 10 squared is 100, so the area of the circle is 100, so if it was just like a 2-dimensional surface, this would be 100 pi. But I'm going to take like that flat disk and I'm going to stack it 6 high. So I'm going to multiply by 6. So it's 600 pi, which we're going to have to approximate that. So you can use your pi button. It does say in the directions, use your pi button on your calculator. So that's going to come out to be 1884.96. Oops, I've got an extra 8 there. And it does say it around to nearest hundredth. And so that's how that's going to round. And that's going to be in meters cubed. Okay, number 4, another type of prism. Can you guess what kind this is? If you look at what's parallel and congruent, you do have this rectangle on top and rectangle on the bottom, and they're parallel, but they're not congruent to each other, so that cannot be the base. The base is going to be this trapezoid shape, and then so you've got that one, and then you've got this other trapezoid, and they're congruent and parallel, so that's the shape of my base. So I'm going to, if I draw that over here, this is 3, this is 6, and then the height of that is going to be this right there, and that's 3.7. So the area for a trapezoid is going to be base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2, so your average. So what you're doing is you're just finding the average of those, and then times the height. And that's going to be the area of my base. So that's what I'm going to do first. And then once I get that, I'm going to look at how high am I going to stack it, and I'm going to stack it this high. Okay, and so what is that? That is 6, so you have to kind of look around maybe for the measurement. So I'm going to say 6 times whatever that 1/2 times 9 times 3.7 is. So I'm going to put that all in my calculator, and it comes out to 99.9 centimeters cubed. So go ahead and just make sure that you can get that. So as you're looking at all these prisms, you have to make sure you're clear on what the base is, what shape. Find the area of that shape, and then just stack it. Like, I just think about it as like flat discs or flat, like a plane, and I'm going to stack it this high. And depending on how it's turned, like it might be easier to see it one way or another, but like on this one, the bases are the circles because they're the two that are congruent and parallel. And so that's how you would tell that. So a couple of others to practice on. This is a rectangular prism. Now, when you have something like this, and we also saw it on number 2, when you're doing volume, volume of a three-dimensional rectangular prism like this is basically length times width times height. And so I could do the same thing by saying 11 times 7 times 9, which is just what I did. So when we look at number 5, I say this is 8 by 11, and then I'm going to stack it 4. So 8 times 11 times 4, and you just multiply that out, and that gives you your volume. So that's the easiest kind of volume to do. It's just when you have other shapes that it becomes a little bit more complicated. Okay, number 6 is another cylinder, so paying attention to what we're given this diameter. I need the radius, so my radius is 2. So make sure you're clear on, do you have the diameter, the radius? And I'm going to say pi r squared, so that's going to be 2 squared times pi. That's the area of my circle, and I'm going to stack it 5 high. So that's going to be 4 pi times 5, which if I was looking for an exact answer, it would be 20 pi. But since I'm looking for an approximation, I'm going to put that in my calculator with my pi button, and I'll get 62.83 meters cubed. Okay, we'll do the rest of the lesson in the next video.